guys, we have a very powerful, very fiery full moon in the sign of Gemini that we need to talk about today, impacting energy today and over the next couple of weeks. We are also at the midpoint of a very climactic lunar cycle that began on November 13th. The full moon, this is always the halfway point in any new moon cycle that occurs when the sun and the moon come into their polar opposition with each other. This time around, it happens to be the sun in the sign of Sagittarius, the moon in the sign of Gemini. So we're going to be dealing with a lot of these Sagittarius Gemini themes throughout the course of the next couple weeks and probably the day for sure. And also Pisces themes coming through very strong this full moon cycle as well. We have the sun in Sagittarius with Mars. We've got the moon in Gemini giving us our full moon. And we've also got Saturn right now in the sign of Pisces squaring it all. We also have an exact square going on in the sky between Mercury, who is the ruler of our full moon in Gemini, and Neptune in the sign of Pisces. This is a cycle, you guys, that is going to be confusing, probably going to be disorienting. We may really be questioning literally everything, including the ground that we're standing on in this energy over this next couple of weeks, and being the sort of like passive observer in the midst of everything that could be unfolding, maybe perhaps a little bit chaotically around us. This is going to be our best option in terms of trying to maintain any type of clarity or perspective as we go through this energy. There's a major distortion in the informational field coming through this cycle, along with some very, very passionate emotional energy that is really going to be motivating people to maybe do some things without thinking too much about it first, which may not work out the best in every scenario. And we've also got a Venus South Node conjunction that is going on. Things from the past, somehow relevant, relationships, investments, deals, images, things that we've loved or valued or enjoyed before. I feel like a lot of people are going to be changing their mind about things, changing preferences, sort of letting go of things once and for all. And kind of, with the way that this whole conglomeration of aspects and energy is coming together this cycle, it's sort of like by the time we get to the end of the month and moving into December and the Sagittarius cycle, we really may be seeing things with some new eyes. And as a result of that, we may be deciding to make some major changes in some areas of our lives. So all of that being said, you guys, let's really get into this interpretation. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Aubrey. We on this channel are narrating the shift of the ages, and this particular full moon where we're at right now is probably making a big impact in the course, really, I feel like, of this entire year. Full moons have the reputation of being a time when things can get a little bit crazy. Lunacy is the typical term associated with this sort of sentiment, and I do feel like this particular full moon is sort of like the quintessential of that energy. This could sort of be like a full moon for the books, which honestly, from an energetic level, is what I would expect, being that this is the midpoint in what was a really hard to call, but also like glaringly transformative and a new moon cycle that occurred in a conjunction to Mars and an opposition to Uranus. We knew going into this new moon cycle as of November 13th that there were likely to be some very sudden, shocking, unexpected, spontaneous changes or transformations or awakenings or just shifts somehow that went on throughout the course of this 4-week lunar cycle that made some type of significant impact. And I feel like this full moon right now is sort of what, obviously, whatever happens with the new moon is where we come to the full expression of energy, is what fully blossoms and blooms with the full moon. So I feel like, that chart of our new moon where we had the sun and the moon coming together in the sign of Scorpio in a conjunction to Mars in an opposition to Uranus, the changes that were indicated with that chart, I feel like could really be sort of like getting or blowing the lid off of some things right now, if that makes any sense. This chart to me definitely very much feels like a pressure cooker that is about to blow, okay? And so that being said, I actually do want to open this report, preface this report with maybe kind of like the mental frame and the advice that I see coming through in terms of what we do have to work with by way of the higher octaves of this energy, and the best way that we can use these aspects being, again, a full moon that is happening in an opposition to Mars and a square to Saturn, which is going to make this a hard one to keep contained, right? It's like this pressure cooker energy, and the lid is shaking and vibrating. And then we've got the ruler of the moon in an exact square to Neptune. This is totally distorting our informational field. So, all the information and all the conversation and all the ideas and all the learning and all the knowledge and all the transaction, all the Gemini Mercury energy that is associated with the expression of itself during this full moon is likely to be extremely distorted somehow. Or this energy is likely to represent some type of conflict between like previous beliefs and previous conceptions and previous understandings and like that which we are coming to find and discover now. And then we've also got the conjunction between Venus and the South Node, which is putting this emphasis also on relationships, investments, deals, connections, commitments, images, facades, values from the past, and reflecting on, who we're becoming now and what we do and don't want to take with us moving forward. So these three aspects coming together, influencing the day and the next couple of weeks as the midpoint in this cycle that was indicating some type of shocking, sudden, dynamic transformation, change, awakening, readjustment, realignment. So I feel like the best advice in that context, okay, we don't want to try to understand things in this energy. We're probably just gonna feel like we're banging our head against a wall and end up, just frustrated and irritated and confused. We don't want to try to control things outside of ourselves or, make things happen in any type of significant way in the world right now. Energy is just not supporting that. We don't want to take anyone or anything too seriously. I'm telling you guys, this week, no one has any idea what they're talking about. People may tell you one thing and look dead into your eyes and say something plain as day, like they absolutely mean it. And then, turn around a couple days, a couple hours, a week later, and it's like that conversation never happened and they're doing the entirely different thing and acting as though, that whole previous situation never transpired. Like, I'm talking like, it doesn't matter how serious somebody seems in the moment, do not necessarily put a bunch of weight in it. Do not necessarily take it seriously, because people are going to be changing their minds a lot. So the Gemini full moon that is fire powered. Gemini is very changeable. This is mutable energy as well, which is adaptable, which does go with the flow, which does sort of fade from one thing into another. So like nothing is set in stone right now. If people are coming at you with like crazy this, that, or the other, or, it doesn't really matter, whatever, whether it seems like too good to be true or just totally insane, on any octave, again, like the conscious observer, observing the information, taking it in, cataloging it, but not acting like it's set in stone, like I said, and definitely not allowing it to be a catalyst of action. That's another thing about this full moon with all of this fire energy. Fire, Mars, this is action, okay? We don't want to make decisions and take actions based on false interpretations of things or false understandings of things, or, hearing something that is not what we thought it was, letting it get us all riled up and spinning out of control and taking some radical crazy action as a result, and then later, like when the dust settles, be like, oh, like that was a huge mistake, like I acted way prematurely, like I thought I was hearing or seeing or viewing or witnessing one thing, but in reality that's actually not what was going on at all. So that's sort of the type of thing that just the energetic atmosphere is primed for. And a lot of people that are not conscious of the way that these energies operate and stuff, and are not super conscious of their own, subconscious programming, or, the way their own psyche works, like, people are going to be acting like that in a lot of occasions. Okay, so, what we want to do, like I said, we don't want to try to necessarily understand what's going on with anybody or the world or anything right now. And we definitely don't want to be trying to exert external control on the world outside of ourselves. And we don't want to be taking anything anybody says too seriously. Also, if it's like criticisms or judgments of us coming down from like somebody we respect, or like an authority figure, or like a boss or something like that, even that type of stuff, constructive criticism, absolutely, but don't take it too seriously. Don't let it like color your self-perception stuff necessarily in this energy, because again, there's a distortion in the informational field. Nothing is as it seems, and people are not seeing things clearly. But what we can do, okay, the best thing that we can do in this energy is maintain control over ourselves, ourselves, okay, our literal energy levels, what we're doing. I've been talking about this. Self-discipline and self-control are our best friend right now. And also, with this Pisces octave of stuff playing out, our imagination. We also don't want to let our imaginations or our ideals or our fears get the best of us in this energy and, suck us into an emotional state where we are acting irrationally for some reason based on literally like something that we're imagining that's like not even necessarily real. And that's another thing people are going to be doing. They're going to be imagining themselves into a state of a frenzy based on like, again, this misinterpretation or just this, like, I don't even know. It's just like this whipped up energy that is causing people like skewing reality. Okay. So if we can keep ourselves grounded, maintain, self-control in this energy, not allow our emotions to get us all whipped up and have us doing stuff that may not be necessarily in our best interest, and also not let our imagination really run away with us or run wild based on maybe something that we think that we're seeing or hearing or finding out about, this, that, and the other. We actually have Mercury and Neptune together. While they do distort the informational field, it can give us sort of like a more keen perception into the more like subtle, spiritual, invisible influences and forces that are also sort of guiding our path right now. So, observing, like from the same extent that we're sort of taking a step back and not allowing ourselves to get caught in the informational field of the matrix necessarily over this period of time, by that, in and of that same regard, we can also have a bit of a greater ability to receive some of this more tuned in guidance on the more subtle levels of stuff, paying attention to the patterning and to the synchronicities and stuff like that, maybe instead of everything that's going on in terms of like the informational sphere of reality that is just likely to be distorted right now. But again, we're still likely to be sort of like questioning even like our own interpretation of our own intuition and stuff in this energy. So if you just feel like you're questioning everything, don't really know what's going on, don't really feel totally settled, and just kind of like this a little bit, it's also this Gemini Mercury energy. It's sort of this nervous energy, like this internalized kind of like angst a little bit, maybe, just feeling also like something's about to happen. There's a very strong building emotional energy, building emotional tension, like collectively, that leading up to the full moon has been extremely palpable. If you're sensitive to energies, and I'm sure, if you're watching this video, most of you probably are, you've probably felt it, like this just like internalized sense of being a bit unsettled and stuff like that. That could also be sort of having us just kind of questioning what's going on, like feeling like, maybe something's about to happen, but we don't exactly know what. These just generally types of vibes, okay? So if you find yourself in that situation, that's totally par for the course right now, and being an observer, right, and trying to stay in control of ourselves, in control of our imagination, but not, needing to exert that control externally, that I feel like is the best way overall that we can move through this period of time and use this energy kind of without losing our mind, which is what a lot of people are going to be doing. A lot of people are going to be feeling like they're losing their mind. Mental illness also, you guys, with Mercury square Neptune ruling the Gemini full moon in Gemini Sagittarius. This could also be things that a lot of people are struggling with, a lot of people are dealing with as this energy unfolds. And if you feel that going on, you know, in and of yourself too, like, and it's not something that you normally deal with, again, it's just a facet of the times, and this energy will pass as we move through this next couple of weeks. But right now there is something that needs to be unleashed, sort of, and that I feel like is what is in the process of happening also with this full moon. You know, of course, like I said, we are in a full moon cycle that is representing the midpoint of a new moon cycle that was in a conjunction to Mars and in an opposition to Uranus. That is significant, sudden, shocking change, transformation, awakening, breakthrough, hitting us out of nowhere. And I feel like this energy coming with this full moon could be representing that, like, sudden eruption, or where that, like, you know, like I said, it's like the pressure, like the pressure cooker rumbling on top of the lid about to be blown off. So emotional tension building, leading to some type of significant eruption or sudden release that could definitely occur in this energy. There's also this change of heart that is going on simultaneously with Venus South Node, both in the sign of Libra, ruled by Venus, her being right there, or remembrance as well. It's like something about the past is relevant in the context of whatever's playing out right now. You might be hearing from people from the past, something from the past, a relationship could be on your mind. Again, this is also reminding me of things in terms of like deals, agreements, judgments, investments from the past coming up right now. Maybe that is like the resistance that we're trying to break through to go in a new direction or something like that. Maybe like some old commitment that we realize we need to get ourselves out of in order to move forward, and we're ready to, I don't know, like burn it down or something in order to make that happen. And then when we add to that also the collective state of delusion that we're just sort of in right now, while the ruler of this full moon, Mercury, the mind, the messenger planet, squares Neptune, the dream, the fantasy, the illusion. For the love of God, you guys, please do not make commitments this week. Please do not sign contracts. Do not, you know, deals, agreements, negotiations, or if you do, or you can't get out of it, or it's unavoidable, understand that this is a preliminary contract that you're signing, and there's going to have to be adjustments or revisions, because no matter how clearly we think that we are on the same page with somebody right now, you guys, I'm telling you, you're not. No matter how sure you are that they just said what you just understood them to say, you know what? They probably think they didn't. And going forward at some future point, you know, there will probably be some type of issue that occurs as a result of you hearing one thing and them not having a recollection of that one thing, even if they maybe literally just said that verbatim. So, you know, you're not crazy. There could be like the theme of like gaslighting. This energy reminds me of that, although I don't even necessarily feel like it's like always in this case intentional. Like it's literally like people like losing track of time, or losing their grip on reality, or, you know, being confused or disoriented in terms of what they have and haven't done in the past, and like not even knowing or not even remembering, or, you know, being caught in something else. Like it's very strange. These are very strange times. And again, this is what we would have to expect. We would have to expect the weirdest ongoings ever coming from a full moon that or a new moon cycle that happened in opposition to Uranus. And with Mars right there as well, we know it's something like explosive, and it's something that's passionate, and there's a fire that is driving whatever it is. Okay. So, I'm, you know, my personal understanding, the advice I would give myself in this energy is don't make a commitment unless there is no other option. And if there is no other option, and, you know, it's just, this is the way that it's divinely ordained and falling into place right now, then doing so with the awareness that there will most likely be some type of adjustment or correction that needs to take place. People are going to be reconsidering a lot of past choices with Venus, what we want, what we love, what we value, in a conjunction to the South Node, the weighing of the scales. And the South Node is also the past. This is also karma. This is also loss. There could also be like financial loss that is somehow represented, or material loss that is somehow represented through this at this point in time. This could also, another way, like loss of an ability to save face somehow, loss of a presentation, loss of a facade, loss of an image that one has been maintaining, maybe if it has been deceitful or dishonest in some type of a way. You know, while there's this huge distortion in the information field, we're talking about Gemini energy. So there's going to be 2 octaves of everything playing out. To the same degree that there is this distortion in the information field, there's also going to be energy that is bringing extreme clarity in terms of where distortion has been before. So there's distortion, there's confusion, there's lack of clarity, and there's brain fog, but there's also like the wool being pulled off the eyes, like awakening from the dream, right? With the being halfway through the cycle that was opposite Uranus, which is a planet of awakening. So, you know, in both of those things, like creating and contributing to the sense of generalized disorientation. Because think about it, like, even if we're waking up to something in this energy, it's going to make us question, like, you know, something significant that makes a major impact on the way that we view reality going forward. Like, it's going to make us question probably like everything that we've learned in the past, and therefore, you know, what is true now going forward in the context of what we've come to understand. So it's not even that like finding things out or like gaining a revelation or some type of thing being like explosive information, mind-blowing information. Like, it's not even that like this revelation necessarily brings clarity. It almost is like finding out the truth almost confuses us more, because it's like, okay, well, if all of that was fake, then how do I know everything else isn't fake? You know what I mean? So like, that's the type of thing, finding things out that make us question things even more, or just generally being in a state of bewilderment by, you know, the way that things are playing out. Anyway, either way, we're not nailing ourselves to any walls. Like, we're not committing ourselves to anything. We are not, you know, taking any like serious oaths or anything in this energy. And again, people are likely to be reconsidering a lot as well. This is more of, I'll tell you guys, this is more of commitment breaking energy than commitment forming energy, for sure, all day, all the way. People are also going to be like very adamant that they do know things in this energy. That's another thing, you know. Find humor everywhere you can, you guys, because people are probably going to be very sure of themselves with Mars and the Sun in Sagittarius, very sure of their beliefs, very sure of what they know, but in reality, like, come to find out later, or when the cards fall or the dust settles or whatever, coming to see that they actually didn't know anything at all, and that they really don't, and they had no idea what they were talking about. The information that is coming out now and the things that we are finding out could, in this energy, also potential to create very strong cognitive dissonance, like I said, also projection, and also these like mental illness type of things, you know, anxiety and panic and stuff like that. Nervous tension could obviously be like a thing that people are dealing with sort of in mass. And mind blowing, we're talking about a Gemini full moon in an opposition to Mars. This is mind-blowing information. This is shattering also with Venus in the South Node, right? Some sort of image, some sort of fantasy, some sort of facade, paradigm, or reality generally. Themes also with Saturn, because remember, this is also in a square to Saturn. Saturn is all about control. On one hand, it's so interesting to me as well, because we have Saturn, the control systems and the authority and like the rules and the regulations from the past, and Neptune, the dream, the illusion, the fantasy, both in the same signs, both in the sign of Pisces, coming up against all of this Gemini, Sagittarius energy about facts, information, truth, reality. It does feel like, one example of a manifestation of this energy, again, could be some type of like previous authority figure distorting information in order to maintain control and prevent some type of new energy from breaking through or learning something or taking back power somehow. I feel like there's a million ways that specific scenario is going to be manifesting as we move through this energy. And as I said, themes of mind control, narratives, hypnosis come to mind in the context of this chart. Perhaps also these narratives breaking down, though, that it's the Pisces energy. So, it's like the overlay, but it doesn't have the staying power because Pisces energy ultimately dissolves, like it erodes and it washes away. So while there could be this attempt to overlay, an ideal or an illusion or a dream or a fantasy over the emerging reality, I just don't think that it's going to have the staying power to actually be grounded into, the reality that would impact the future in a way where the new energy would not be able to eventually break through, because that seems to be everything that is being indicated now: sudden change, transformation, revolution, rebellion. This could also be a very rebellious energy as well, but definitely, with all of the Gemini Mercury stuff going on, this could really have to do with mind, like limiting beliefs, okay, and mind control from like narratives or just general understandings of things, or like what we've learned or what we've been taught in the past that's associated with that. And again, this brings back the theme of people reconsidering what they know, what they've learned, choices, options, decisions as a result of that. Also, in this energy with Mars and the Gemini moon, information being used as weapons in that regard as well. Like I was saying, information maybe being distorted in order to prevent something from happening or to keep like something in a state of relative disempowerment, people being confused and therefore unable to make rational choices and act effectively. And I do feel like, this could be on purpose in a lot of cases. We do see, because of the Mars-Saturn element of things, this is, and the Gemini influence as well, this is power struggles, this is clashes of wills, this is vying for power and control. And we're talking about Mars and Saturn. I've been talking about this. This is an older, more masterful, established version of something, and a younger, more youthful, motivated, courageous, inspired, and passionate version of something. This is like the student and the teacher, the master and the apprentice, the parent and the child, the general and the soldier. The Mars energy, and with the moon, this is the collective will up against the control systems, the powers that be, all right? This is where we're at, and these are the forces that are coming to a head. And of course, this is going to happen on a microcosm within us in terms, these could literally be like inner battles going on within us between who we've been and who we're becoming and our belief systems of the past, and the, changes to our understandings of reality now and like what that's doing to us in our lives. Or it could just be something that's playing out in our external reality that we're having to adjust and adapt to as well. But information as a weapon, for sure. Information war vibes going on big time when we've got a Gemini moon opposite Mars and in square to Saturn, and people being confused, like I said, and therefore maybe like unable to act effectively and making the best decisions. And that's another reason why I'm saying, this is not necessarily the time to act in making those decisions if we can help it. And then with Venus in the South Node, again, I've already said this, but I'm going to say it again, a loss of image, a facade, not being able to save face, not being able to cover something up, not being able to smooth it over, not being able to keep the peace, not being able to, maintain the perception of balance and justice and harmony. This is, seeing perhaps like the ugly truth of someone or of a situation or of a relationship or of a deal or of an investment. Mercury and Neptune in a square. This is also like shady business, deception, manipulation. And you guys, Another piece of advice, you want to be as honest as possible in this energy. This is not the energy where you want to, avoid something so that you don't have to address something if you think that, somebody might take it the wrong way, or we don't want to hide from things. We don't want to manipulate things. We don't want to be secretive or shady. We want to be as honest about stuff. We want to be as straightforward about stuff as possible in this energy, and with the understanding that anything that can potentially be misunderstood is likely to be misunderstood. We want to practice active listening, and we just really and then also we don't want to have the expectation that people are going to follow through on whatever we come to, or whatever decision or whatever conclusion or whatever transpires in this energy, because most likely they're not, okay? And again, people are reconsidering past choices, past decisions, and this is just a major time of some very personal changes based on some crazy wild stuff that's going on in our minds and in our experiences right now. Now let's go a bit deeper into these aspects, all right? I want to talk about the symbolism. The symbolism is crazy in the context of the aspects coming through. I feel like it's telling us a lot. The position of the sun, 5 degrees of Sagittarius for our full moon, an old owl perched high up in a tree. That's the entire vibe, you guys. That's where we want to be. If you need an archetype to adhere to, or to sort of act out in your reality as we go through this full moon, that's the one. The old owl perched high in the tree. We just want to be silent, sort of passive observers of what's going on. People are going to be running around with, their pants on fire, you know what I mean? And unless we're being directly summoned in a very obvious way from universe to step in and throw water on that fire, it is going to benefit us in this energy not to act unless, we have really put some very significant focused strategy and thought into it, which we'll talk about in a minute. But it's just being the observer is the role that is going to be best for us to play. In terms of the position of the full moon itself, I couldn't believe it when I saw actually this full moon was happening at 5 Gemini. To me, in all of the Sabian symbols, 5 Gemini is one of the notorious ones. There's a few Sabian symbols that I always remember, and when I see these Sabians, I'm like, oh God. This one, and it's so crazy in the context of this being a Gemini full moon with Mercury ruling Gemini squaring Neptune. This is the perfect, and also the opposition to Mars and the square to Saturn. This is the perfect symbol for this. A radical magazine or publication asking for action displays a sensational front page. The position of the moon, 5 Gemini, in a conjunction to the Earth, always in a polar opposition to the sun. That's the state of things on the ground. That's, what's pressing on the emotional energy with the moon being right there. A radical magazine or publication asking for action displays a sensational front page. That really is the whole vibe that the aspects of this chart are bringing through. And we, again, do not want to allow ourselves to be spurred or motivated into some type of radical or reckless action as a result of some distorted information that hits us out of nowhere. That is what is being spoken about. That is the symbolic emphasis coming through in terms of how this energy is likely to be operating, and specifically with people on the ground and their emotional state. And then we have an old owl perched up high in the tree to counter that. We do not respond to that radical magazine cover calling for action. We step back, we assume the higher vantage point, we allow the cards to fall, we wait for things to play out. And we just don't allow ourselves to join whatever is fueling the frenzy out there. Okay, so that symbolism I feel like is quite telling. This, of course, is the full moon in Gemini. Information, communication, conversations. we're very mentally geared, but emotionally, when we have a Gemini moon going on, we've got a full moon in Gemini. Of course, this is a very powerful emotional energy as well. People need to talk about their feelings. People are going to be talking about their feelings, and they're going to be talking about their feelings in a very passionate way. Now, again, this is the Mars energy. So this could lead more towards the anger end of things, or it could lead more towards just the passion, the motivation, the courage, and the desire to like take back power or assert oneself type of thing. But either way, people are likely to be fired up, and passions are likely to be running very, very high. And with that moon at 5 Gemini, I would expect wild headlines, you guys. And again, pushing, motivating action, prime for propaganda, narrative sort of running wild. Again, do not let people get you whipped up into an emotional state to serve their interests. You know what I mean? Don't allow yourself to be a pawn in somebody else's game that they're trying to have going on right now. And another reason why I'm saying that, and this is another important symbolic reference that is coming through, the position of Mars right now is at 3 degrees of the sign of Sagittarius. That Sabian symbol is two men playing chess. So like I was saying earlier, you know, if we do need to make a move, if you do need to take action, let it be strategic, okay? Let it be well thought out, well planned in advance, and let it be something that you feel confident in the way that that action will hit and like the ripple effects that will come from it. This is, and remember, we're also in a Scorpio cycle where Mars and the Sun came together. Like this is a time for very strategic actions. And what we have in the context of this chart is a chart for extremely reckless actions based on a hot air and emotional fire that is just fueling everything and making it very, very hard to control both, again, ourselves and our mind and our imagination and like what's coming out of our mouth, okay? And then there's also this energy with the Gemini of polarities and oppositions and dualities and like two sides pitted up against one another or two sides to a story. The position of the North Node right now too. A double promise reveals its inner and outer layer. And Mercury, also being in the exact square to Neptune, is also in almost an exact trine to the North Node. So like there is a hugely destined and fated element of whatever it is that we're finding out, whatever it is that we're hearing, whatever it is that we're uncovering. It's important. It's like a very important domino that is falling in the context of this full moon. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to be real clear about stuff, or that we're going to have a real good idea about what's going on, or that we're necessarily going to know like what to do next or what direction to take. So again, like a game of chess can last literally forever, and like there's no rush necessarily on that next move. That is how we need to be, the old owl in the tree. We are gathering data, we are gathering information, we are observing from all perspectives. We're turning our head all the way around, getting the 360 view of things. And then, you know, we are being very, very strategic in the choices and in the decisions that we make at this point in time, and we are not allowing ourselves to get all fired up and to lose control, which, you know, with the square to Saturn, things having all to do about control, and Venus in the North Node, you know, things that we're losing, what we are not letting ourselves do is lose control over ourselves and over our imagination. Okay, square to Saturn. Pressure from authority, government, rules, limitations, time, karma, judgment, duty, obligation, some control mechanism at odds with the people or with the self or with the will or the passion or the motivation or the mind or the freedom or the truth of the people or of the self, being represented by this moon in opposition to Mars, something blocking action or some authoritarian figure at odds with the will, either collectively or personally. This is what is likely to be driving this lunacy that could be coming out in this energy, creating pressure that is seeking an outlet that is likely to come in this more eruptive way with all of this Mars pressure cooker energy. Mars and the Sun in the sign of Sagittarius, this is themes of truth, freedom, expansion and belief that this fire is like burning for. Like that's what we want to engage in. With the moon in the sign of Gemini, this is a need to understand. This is information, news, conversations, facts, and a need to communicate our feelings and what we're learning. Saturn in square to both in the sign of Pisces, this is illusion, fantasy, dream, ideals, the controls that they've had over us breaking down, or like some type of control over our mind or over our ability for like personal expansion being exerted somehow that is creating this pressure. A lot of this, because of the Sagittarius, Gemini, Pisces energy, is going to have to do with belief systems and truth, finding out how we've been deceived in the past or how we have been unknowingly deceiving our own selves, waking up from some type of dream, some type of slumber, some type of hypnosis midway through this lunar cycle that was all about some type of sudden awakening indicated in the opposition to Uranus. It's like this whole lunar cycle is really ultimately, as we've been talking about this profound awakening to something. And now that we have this energy coming through, like this is the cord that is like yanking us out and unplugging us from the matrix, and we're just looking around like, whoa, you know, what is this? Where have I been? What have I been believing? What have I gotten myself into? What life have I built for myself, and like what do I need to do now to sort things out? We're in a place where we're realizing maybe nothing that we thought or believed was ever really what we thought or believed it was, and we're still unsure because of that, you know, what is true going forward, sort of like I was describing earlier. So the wise owl perched up in the tree, two men playing chess, okay? We're conscious observers, and we are implementing some type of strategy before we just act. We are thinking everything through. We are only acting and making our move when we are confident that we have put in the time and the effort to make sure that it's going to go according to the best of our ability, like some type of productive outcome for us. We are staying grounded. We are embracing logic. We are embracing reason in a period of time that is likely to not be providing a whole lot of that for us. And we want to watch what we say. Anything can and will be used against you that you say in this energy, you guys. And do not hide, do not lie, do not deceive, do not evade. Be your best and most upright and honest version of yourself. Today, this week, always, but you know, it's just very important right now. And basically with, you know, it's like Mercury retrograde type of energy when we have Mercury in a square to Neptune, and during a full moon in Gemini that's in an opposition to Mars, and everything in Sagittarius and Gemini as well. Really very little of what we feel like is real is actually real, or will have any type of actual like lasting material effect. This is a time where, again, like I said in the beginning, we can perceive perhaps more keenly these spiritual influences that are at play in our lives and in the reality around us. But it's just very important that we do our best not to lose touch of the real world right now, and to maintain like focus and sight of our purpose, even though everything may feel real confusing as we go through this next couple of days. We don't want to just, you know, let ourselves lose ourselves in this energy. It feels also to me sort of like a rubber band that has been pulled back, either to the point where it's just about to snap or like slingshot forward, but like people's emotions are the band. Like I said, like mental illness, big time. This could, if people have issues with that, it's probably going to be acting up at this point in time. Also, you know, violence, when we've got Mars and the moon and this Gemini energy, it's just, we're primed for that with the square to Saturn as well. Snapping over delusions, snapping over things that aren't necessarily even real. So before we allow ourselves again to get all caught up in that, we want to make sure that it's worth it. If there can be a possible misunderstanding, like I was saying, you know, there probably will be major themes related to the past, relationships, investments, agreements, judgments, images, trips, also secrets, reconsidering things, huge informational component, mind blown, damaged by fire and wind, whether that be metaphorical or literal, nothing straightforward, both intentional and organic confusion going on, like confusion that is intentionally being planted, but also there's just going to be a lot of delusion and disorientation that is naturally arising right now as well. Also, this explosive news. Trust nothing you see, trust no one you hear. And there is likely to be an element of the past maybe coming back, trying to like recast a spell over us somehow. But I really don't think it's going to work. This is ultimately energy about breaking us out of some limiting paradigm of our experience in the past in some area of our lives or in some dimension of ourselves, and helping us to break through to a phase of personal expansion somehow. But we just want to make sure that we're being careful in this energy is all I'm trying to say. So that's really what I have to say about this full moon. Honestly, like, I do expect to see some fireworks happening on a world stage over this period of time. Again, being midway through this very huge new moon cycle that we are in, and this year also, it's to be expected. And I really I feel like we're there. It's like you can almost, and I'm sure you guys are experiencing like a similar sensation, like you can literally almost feel the vibration of the lid that's like about to blow off. So that's what I'm gonna say, you guys. But ultimately, I do actually feel like it's about releasing us from some type of state of lack of awareness that was keeping us limited and detached from a personal destiny that we're being called to step into now. So that's what's on the table. Let's get a synchronicity card now. God, Spirit, Universe, what would be one piece of advice? What's some guidance we should use to keep ourselves on track, grounded, centered, focused, clear, moving through this full moon energy? Oh, there's one that came shooting out. Bless them and walk on. This is one of my favorite cards in this deck. Very much, okay? The words of a talebearer are as wounds as they go down into the innermost parts of the belly. Proverbs 26:22. You can see through the darkness of another's mind. You are not responsible for their negative thinking, and you cannot change their mind. Do not get involved. Bless them and walk on. Act as the wise owl in the tree, right? This is perfect advice, okay? You can see through the darkness of another's mind. There's going to be a lot of that, okay? A lot of darkness from other people's minds. This is manifesting in this energy, and you are not responsible for their negative thinking, and you cannot change their mind. Do not get involved. Bless them and walk on. That's what we got, you guys. That's what I have to say about our lovely Gemini full moon that we have going on November 27th, 2023. Hope you guys liked it. If you did like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel, you guys. Share it with your friends if you think that they would be interested in this type of astrology content as well. Leave me comments, you guys. Let me know if you're having experiences out in the world that are in alignment with or reflecting what I'm talking about in these videos. I really appreciate your feedback. I love knowing what's going on with you. I value what you guys have to say so much, and I really am grateful for your presence here. Thank you guys so much. If you want to know what it says on this whiteboard over here, I post a picture of those in a Facebook group that I have that is linked in my description box below. And come back with me on Wednesday, you guys. We got more astrology we're going to be getting into, moving through this full moon half of our month, and we're going to have a lot to talk about, and I'm going to be here to talk about it, and you should be here too. You don't want to miss it, and I will see you then, guys. Have a beautiful full moon, and until next time, bye.